This election year, 10 TV delivered unprecedented political coverage.
Tonight in Vote 2012.
We now go live to the State House.
Dedicating airtime, getting every candidate on the record, providing balanced information and resources on 10tv.com, registering Central Ohioans to vote, answering your questions and leading the way with debates and election night coverage. Dedicated to the process, dedicated to the community. We are 10 TV News, Central Ohio's news leader.
Vice President Joe Biden visits Central Ohio. He and the Education Secretary spoke at Gahanna Lincoln High School. 10 TV News anchor Tracy Townsend sat down for an exclusive interview with the Vice President, and she joins us live in the studio with what he had to say today. Tracy.
Well, Andrea, the Vice President and Education Secretary Arnie Duncan spoke before a standing room only crowd in the gymnasium at Gahanna Lincoln today. The subject, college affordability. Both made the point that it's not just about going to college, but graduating. Parents, students, and educators were in this crowd. Vice President Biden tried to make a connection by recalling his own experience as a first-generation college student. One reason the administration chose Gahanna Lincoln is its 95% graduation rate and the fact that more than 80% of the grads go on to college. I asked the Vice President how Ohio's middle-class families can even make college education a priority at a time when many are struggling in this current economy.
So that's why Barack and I, from the day we stepped into office, thought the single most important thing we could do is to help kids get to college.
Decided to make a little bit of national news, Tracy. I sat down with Romney for about 10 minutes earlier. We discussed jobs and the economy here in the Buckeye State. Another topic we discussed involved the recent debate on coverage of contraception. The U.S. Senate will soon vote, in fact tomorrow, on the Blunt-Rubio measure. It would basically allow employers to deny coverage for birth control on the grounds that they find it morally objectionable. Now, both parties agree this Senate vote likely to be very close. Rick Santorum has been vocal during the campaign about his support of that proposal. Today, in this exclusive interview, Romney announced that he would not vote for it and then went further, taking a swipe at Santorum.
I'm not for the bill, but look, the idea of presidential candidates getting into questions about contraception within a relationship between a man and a woman, a husband and wife, I'm not going there.
Now, Santorum has gone there a lot, bringing up a lot of issues supported by social conservatives. Clearly, Mitt Romney veering back toward the middle, looking ahead to November, knowing that undecided women will make up a huge chunk of voters on Election Day. By the way, you can see my entire interview tonight on Campaign 2012. That's on the Ohio News Network at 8:30. Tracy should quickly point out the Romney camp now beginning to pull back from that statement, suggesting that Romney maybe would vote for it. We'll have more details on that coming up at 8:30.
Well,
is he or isn't he for it or against it?
Certainly. Stay tuned.
Yep.
All right, Jim, thank you. In Campaign 2012 race for the White House, President Barack Obama wrapped up a two-day bus tour of northern Ohio and Pennsylvania today. I had the opportunity to talk with him in Maumee on Thursday. In my one-on-one interview with the president, I asked him what Ohioans can expect if he's reelected.
We've seen progress. Obviously, saving the auto industry was important, something that my opponent disagreed with. But in addition, we've actually seen companies making a decision to bring jobs back here to the United States because we got the best workers in the world. We've got lower energy costs now than we've had in the past. And so we want to continue, but that means giving tax breaks to companies that are investing here in the United States instead of giving tax breaks to companies that are shipping jobs overseas.
He made his case at the Bowling Green Community Center, and 10 TV's Tracy Townsend was there for the campaign stop and was the only Columbus reporter to speak with him one-on-one.
Governor Mitt Romney spent the afternoon here in Bowling Green, Ohio, in an all-out effort to paint President Obama as out of touch.
Mitt Romney.
The GOP candidate told this crowd of just over 1,000 that the president is attacking success.
He tries to divide America, tear America apart.
What is your reaction to this cry for you to release this?
It's kind of amusing. I'm releasing 2 years of records as well as all that's legally required.
10 TV is canvassing Central Ohio college campuses this week to remind everyone to vote. Our Show You Care and Vote bus will be coming to a campus near you. We stopped at Arterburn University in Westerville from 11 to 1 today with voter information and registration forms. It's the first stop of our 5-day tour. We'll make stops at The Ohio State University, Capital University, Ohio Wesleyan, and Columbus State from 11 to 1 for the rest of the week.
Let's let's we've seen these ads. I mean, you can't miss them. Every show, every local station. Let's talk about them a little bit. Let's show first, Daryl, the Romney ad that I think everybody has seen regarding China.
This is America's manufacturing when President Obama took office. This is China's. Under Obama, we've lost over 500,000 manufacturing jobs. And for the first time, China is beating us. 7 times Obama could have stopped China's cheating. 7 times he refused.
It's time to stand up to the cheaters and make sure we protect jobs for the American people.
Barack Obama, failing to stop cheating, failing American workers.
I'm Mitt Romney, and I approve this message.
So we've seen that time and time again. Let's fact check that. What's true? What's false in that?
Tracy, like so many of these ads, you know, it starts out with a true premise. Last year, manufacturing output, China did pass the United States. The United States have been the world leader for, I think, like 110 years or something like that. So that is true. Okay. Maybe they should have stopped there. The graphic way overstates what happened during the Obama presidency. If you try to do any sort of proportionality in those bricks, I guess, it looks like, you know, the United States was way ahead, Obama became president, and then suddenly we fell way behind. This is a trend that's been going on for years. In fact, you look at the 8 years of the Bush presidency, China became very close to the United States. Of course, that's not mentioned. That's sort of one of those inconvenient truths we talk about.
All right, and now based on what you said, I mean, the president quickly responded and has this sort of rebuttal on the air that we want to look at.
It's time to stand up to the cheaters and make sure we protect jobs for the American people.
Mitt Romney, tough on China? Romney's companies were called pioneers in shipping U.S. manufacturing jobs overseas. He invested in firms that specialized in relocating jobs to low-wage countries like China. Even today, part of Romney's fortune is invested in China. Romney's never stood up to China. All he's done is send them our jobs.
I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Right. If that last one was sort of accurate, what about this one?
Probably the same. And again, this was kind of a recycled Obama ad from one he had aired earlier. Again, the nugget of truth, the Washington Post article talks about how Bain was the pioneer of outsourcing. But was Mitt Romney there? Was he pulling the strings? Was he making those decisions?
Welcome back. It's time to hear from both sides on the top political issues in a segment we like to call Two Sides.
All right, from the right, we welcome our good friend, Republican strategist Terry Casey. Hi, Terry.
Good to be here.
And from the left, we welcome back Democratic strategist Dale Butlin. Hi, Dale.
Hi, Jim.
So the rules for this segment are simple. We'll put 15 seconds on the clock, put a topic on the table, and we let you each comment on it. And when you hear the ding, thank you, your time is up.
All right, Terry, let's start with you. Question 1, who has the advantage headed into the Ohio senatorial debate? Sherrod Brown or Josh Mandel?
Mandel's got the advantage. He's the guy coming from behind with the lower name ID. He's now going to be able to talk about Sherrod's record, including quadrupling the debt. He's been in Congress 20 years. It's gone from $4 trillion up to $16 trillion. Sherrod Brown doesn't have a good record to run on. That's why he's been so nasty attacking.
Yes, the debt is all Sherrod Brown's fault. You know, without the $20 million the special interests have spent trashing Senator Brown in this campaign, Josh Mandel's candidacy would be a joke. That's why he won't get the endorsement of any major newspaper in the state except the Dispatch. Terry, if Josh Mandel's not an empty suit, he'll do until one comes along.
All right, let's move to the next one. Will the presidential race, Dale, influence the outcome of Ohio's U.S. Senate race?
To some degree, but remember, Ohioans are pretty practiced ticket splitters. In 1980, Reagan won the state in a landslide. John Glenn won in a landslide. 1988, Mike Dukakis went down big. Howard Metzenbaum won in a landslide. Ohioans can split their tickets.
All right, Terry?
Clearly the problem that Sherrod Brown has got, he's been in Congress too long, and as Mitt Romney keeps rising in the polls, that's going to help Josh Mandel. So definitely all the problems of Obama, Obamacare, everything else, that's something Josh Mandel can run on, and he will.
How important in your electoral vote strategy was the state of Ohio in 2008?
Well, I think we all know that you can win an election as a Republican, but
Nobody
getting,
ever has.
Yeah, I was
no
going to say,
Republicans.
For example, there's a way I can draw you a electoral college map where Mitt Romney can win without Ohio. But I'll tell you, it is a tough, tough road.
And now that early voting is underway, 10 TV wants to get you ready to cast your ballot. We've launched an interactive voter's guide with our partners at the Columbus Dispatch and This Week News. Here's how it works. Log on to 10tv.com/voters guide. All you need is your address and zip code. With one simple click, you'll have your personalized ballot right in front of you. The guide includes contested races and ballot issues in Central Ohio. Want to compare candidates? You can read their biographies and see their responses to questions side by side. The guide also helps you figure out how much proposed tax levies and issues will cost you. Just type in the assessed value of your house. Once you're done, email or print yourself a copy of your choices to take with you when you vote. And most important, none of your information, like your address, is saved. To give the interactive voter's guide a try, just visit us at 10tv.com/voters guide. And as we always say, stay with 10TV and 10tv.com for continuing coverage of the race for the White House.
Voters will also get their say on 2 statewide issues.
That's right. Issue 1 asks whether there should be a convention to change the state constitution. It's something required to be on the ballot every 20 years. Ohio voters have turned it down every time since this started in 1932.
State Issue 2 would create a state-funded commission to draw legislative and congressional districts. Supporters say it would make the process of drawing districts more accountable, transparent, and balanced, so neither party can rig the system to its own advantage. Those against the issue 2, say the new board would be unelected, unaccountable, and simply unacceptable. They say it takes power away from Ohio voters and gives it to a taxpayer-funded bureaucratic commission. In Vote 2012, dozens of school districts are asking for more taxpayer dollars in next week's election, but one community says its cuts will be immediate if voters say no. 10 TV's Tanisha Millette joins us live in the newsroom with the story. A lot at stake here, huh, Tanisha?
Well, Kristen, every district with a levy on the ballot next week has outlined to parents just what is at stake should the levy fail. But for one district, if its levy fails, the cuts will begin in less than 30 days.
The Statue of Liberty is over here, okay?
For students in the Licking Heights local school district, today is a regular school day. But for parents like Brandy Epley, it's the last few days to get the word out about the district's levy.
It's very frightening, so I really hope that it passes.
Epley has 2 children in the district. While her son is focused on his own set of wheels, Epley is concerned about the students who could no longer have access to these wheels. If the upcoming emergency operating levy does not pass, the district will no longer bus high school students to school starting December 3rd.
The challenge for us is we have to balance the budget, and so we would actually lay off drivers, eliminate about 18 routes in the morning, 18 in the afternoon, and then we start to recapture some monies to balance the budget.
The other thing that could change is class size. According to the superintendent, right now a class size averages about 25 students. But if the levy fails, you're looking at a class size of more than 35 students.
Let me show you this headline in the Tampa Bay Times today, that Isaac intrudes. That really says it all. So again, the convention officially kicks off tomorrow, and we say officially in quotations. Of course, Tropical Storm Isaac, the reason they've had to make some changes. While concerns over Tropical Storm Isaac actually hitting the city have been calmed, RNC surrogates, including some of its biggest names, are working to rally the delegate base in support of their presumptive nominee, Governor Mitt Romney. This morning, the Ohio delegation heard from one of his 5 sons, Josh.
What my dad's campaign is about the economy. He understands the economy. He's lived in the private sector. He spent his time in a business career at the Olympics as governor. He really understands the economy. That's his strength.
Political reporter Jim Heath and Columbus Dispatch reporter Joe Varden give us the rundown.
Here we are, day 1 of the Republican National Convention in Tampa Bay. Joe Varden for the Columbus Dispatch joins us. And Joe, I'll tell you, this weather situation has added a little chaotic feel to all of this.
I packed my boots, I packed my Gore-Tex expecting a hurricane, and we haven't gotten that, but we have gotten a lot of uncertainty as far as what's going to happen and when.
Yeah, it certainly disrupted day 1, and Ohio plays such an important role here. And yet, the nominee from Michigan picks the guy from Wisconsin. They make the announcement in the state of Virginia. One could argue that Ohio isn't exactly getting the attention expected.
Right, it's like a week-long slap on the wrist for losing the state for Republicans in 08. But you look ahead to tomorrow night with John Boehner and John Kasich, our governor, both speaking. On Wednesday night, you have U.S. Senator Rob Portman speaking. So Ohio definitely still has a prominent role here.
Yeah, it will be well represented. And I'll tell you, this is Romney's chance to kind of introduce himself, which he has not, some would argue, done effectively up to this point.
And yes, Ohio was in the spotlight this evening. Our own Governor John Kasich was one of the featured speakers, and he joins us now live. We first of all want to thank you for joining us this evening.
Glad to be with you.
Tell us what you wanted to make as your main point to the delegates tonight.
Well, I wanted to say that, we're turning Ohio around with a formula that can be used to turn America around. And when America gets turned around, it will help us to do even better in Ohio. And, it went very well. I've had, I've spoken at a couple others and didn't go so well. But, one lady came up to me tonight and she said, "I'm just so proud to live in Ohio now." And it made me feel really, really good. And so, it was a good experience. It was a lot of fun.
Very big night for Mitt Romney as he accepted that Republican nomination. Interesting, in all of the conventions I've covered, never saw this before. The candidate took the stage you see behind me from the floor, walking the floor, shaking the hands of the delegates before he got on stage to make his speech. When he was on the stage making that speech, he focused on the issue many say is most important, jobs, outlining a 5-step plan he says will create 12 million new ones.
I wish President Obama had succeeded because I want America to succeed.
Mr. President, what do you want the American people to take away from the convention this week and your acceptance speech?
That we have a choice in this election that is as important as any choice we've seen in my lifetime. I think that it is so important for us to fight not just for jobs, but for good jobs. That we have to focus on rebuilding our middle class, making sure that everybody who works hard is able to get ahead. And I'm going to be putting forward a very specific plan to do that.
In campaign 2012, the race for the White House, Democrats are making North Carolina their home away from home as their national convention is about to get underway. 10 TV's Tracy Townsend is live in Charlotte with the preparations and the celebrations. Tracy.
A short list of business items today here at the Democratic National Convention because it officially starts tomorrow. Today, though, some caucus meetings and some rehearsals here at the Time Warner Cable Arena. We saw the First Lady out earlier today working on some of her remarks for tomorrow. All in all, a day for getting ready. And because it is a holiday, there was also a celebration of Labor Day. Charlotte's Carolina Fest celebration was complete with music and dance, community artwork, and campaigning. This morning, there was a salute to labor breakfast for the Ohio delegation. Members also met in caucus sessions as they get ready to conduct the business of the party later this week. Among those here in Charlotte is 89-year-old Ruby Gilliam of Minerva, Ohio. She says delegates must return home with the message of the Obama administration's accomplishments. Former Ohio Governor Ted Strickland talked to the delegates, and he really was answering the remarks that we reported on last week in Tampa when Governor John Kasich talked about how far Ohio has come. In Governor Strickland's remarks, he talked about how the president is responsible for that kind of growth and how the automobile industry bailout has been especially helpful to Ohioans. Here are the remarks from Governor Strickland.
Ohio's economy is benefiting hugely.
Columbus Mayor Michael Coleman watched the speech with us here in our box, and let me ask you first, thank you for joining us. I know you heard a lot of things you liked just by your reaction. Give us an idea of some of the things you thought the president did well tonight.
Well, I think, first of all, last night was about the president as a father, a husband, and a man. Tonight was about making the case for the president's re-election.
President Obama did acknowledge his campaign theme from 4 years ago, that campaign of hope, and he said that he'd never promised the road to hope and prosperity would be easy.
You elected me to tell you the truth.
after all the conventioneering of the last 2 weeks, Tracy, I think the bottom line is this. Reset the clock. We are back at square one. This is going to be a mad sprint to the finish line over the next 60 days.
Right, so next we have debates, but more close to Ohioans is campaigns in Ohio this weekend.
That's right. I think we're going to continue to see all four of these candidates, the presidential and vice presidential candidates, trip over each other all across the Buckeye State in the next 60 days.
All right.
Romney is strongly hinting that the state of Ohio is the key to his political future. No Republican has ever won the White House without it, and now Governor Romney is making every indication that he wants to win here as well. It was a good-sized crowd today in Dayton, about 2,200 strong. Lee Greenwood actually performed a few songs, and after the rally, we jumped on board Romney's campaign bus. I asked him first about Ohio. Governor, good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Tell me, how do you feel about Ohio?
Well, we're going to win Ohio. This is coming down to a battle of direction for the country. The president represents higher taxes, bigger government, more intrusiveness in health care. That's not what the people of Ohio want.
Well, Jerry, both parties appeared energized after watching the presidential debate, and many tonight, though, disagreed on who will win next month's election. As both parties watch the presidential debate tonight, there is one thing they can agree on: how important Ohio is in this election.
Ohio is really a microcosm of the nation as a whole. We have so many different people in this state that kind of represent the different walks of life.
We are going to start, though, with First Lady Michelle Obama's visit to Delaware. 10 TV's Jim Heath starts our coverage. Jim?
Last week, the Romney camp was all over the state of Ohio. This week, the Obama campaign will be quite visible. The First Lady making 2 stops in the state today. The first one here at Ohio Wesleyan University in Delaware County.
Now, a special presentation from WBNS 10 TV and the Columbus Dispatch. This is Vote 2012, the senatorial debate, sponsored by the Ohio Newspaper Organization, a coalition of the 8 largest newspapers in the state of Ohio. Live from the Jeffers Auditorium at Nationwide Insurance in downtown Columbus. Here's your moderator, WBNS 10 TV news anchor, Jerry Revish.
Well, good evening, and thank you for joining us for Vote 2012, the senatorial debate in Columbus. Voters will go to the polls on November 6th to elect Ohio's next U.S. Senator. And this evening, you'll hear from the leading candidates in the race.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jerry, U.S. Senator versus a statewide elected official, the making of a great debate, right? Well, there were moments when the candidates rose to the occasion, but more often than not, they took the tough questions being asked and twisted them into character assassination. Then, about a quarter of the way through the debate, Mandel dropped a political bomb.
Senator, you are a liar. You are lying to the people of the state of Ohio. You are falsely attacking me, and I won't stand for it.
A stunned Brown responded.
It's just a pretty remarkable thing for a young man to say, or for a man of any age to say in a political debate.
From there, the campaign dove into negative charges and countercharges.
Senator, the reason you're agitated and frustrated tonight is because the people of the state of Ohio disagree with you.
So I don't really need a lecture from somebody who can't wait to get to the next job and run for a higher office and continue to try to move up the ladder.
The candidates running for Ohio's 12th congressional district go on the record with Central Ohio voters tonight. James Reese is running on the Democratic ticket. Here is his statement to the public.
Ohio, I'm Jim Reese, running for Congress to bring back Made in America. I believe that if we make our American inventions, if Ohio is making its flat screen TVs, if America is making its iPhones and iPods, if we are manufacturing those products here, every American that wants a job will have a job.
Pat Tiberi is the Republican candidate for the 12th district. Here is his statement to the public.
My name is Pat Tiberi, and I'm running for Congress, and I ask for your vote. I was born and raised and lived my entire life in this district. That's why my wife and I chose to raise our 4 daughters in this district, because we love Central Ohio. This is our home. I come back every weekend from Washington to be home with my family.
Well, let's go to Tracy Townsend for more on that. Tracy.
Hi, Jerry. The president's still here shaking hands. You can see behind me the rally just wrapped up here at Nationwide Arena, where there was almost certainly close to a full house, at least 14,000, 15,000 folks here.
Promise we swore we'd always remember. No retreat, baby, no surrender.
Are we ready to move forward, Ohio? Everybody make some noise!
Tracy, I'll tell you, there's confidence there at Nationwide, but there is confidence here on the other side of Columbus as well. Might not have Jay-Z and Bruce Springsteen. We'd have the Marshall Tucker Band and another big celebrity in Republican circles. He could have been on the ticket, but he certainly played a lot of weight in the debates this year. We welcome Senator Rob Portman. Senator, good to see you.
Jim, good to be with you.
We're down to the final hours now. Some concern about Hamilton County, where you're from, that might not be a big enough Republican vote tomorrow, or have you turned that around?
Well, we feel good about Hamilton County. Early voting went our way as compared to 2008.
10 TV News at 5 begins with Vote 2012 coverage tonight. The voters take center stage in our pivotal presidential state. A razor-thin race that may keep the country on edge throughout the night. Good evening. I'm Jerry Revish.
And I'm Kristen Hartman. It's the day we've all been waiting for. The polls will close in 2.5 hours, and all eyes turn to Central Ohio and Ohio.
Our 10 TV team is spread out across Central Ohio tonight, bringing you up-to-the-minute coverage as voters head to the polls.
We start first with 10 TV's Ashley Berry, who's at the Franklin County Board of Elections with more on today's turnout. Ashley.
Well, Kristen, you know, the big question on everyone's mind right now is when are we going to start seeing the results? The Board of Elections tells us that won't come until about 8 o'clock tonight.
State Democrats and Republicans have gathered at 2 different locations in downtown Columbus to watch the results come in.
10 TV's Kurt Ludlow is with the Democrats at the new Hilton Hotel downtown. But first, let's go to 10 TV's Chuck Strickler, who's with the Republicans at the Renaissance Hotel. Chuck?
And Jerry and Kristen, the anticipation is building here downtown at the Renaissance for the people here at the Republican headquarters. The GOP faithful will be showing up in bigger numbers, of course, after the polls close at 7:30, more closer to 8 o'clock. You can see this is the ballroom. Everything is set up and ready to go. You see the podium there, the big American flag, and everybody with quiet anticipation waiting for those results to come in tonight. Now, the Republicans have high hopes, not only for Mitt Romney and the presidency, but also for U.S. Senate candidate Josh Mandel.
10 TV's Jim Heath is using technology you won't see anywhere else but in Central Ohio. Jim, where is the battle still being fought in Ohio tonight?
I'll tell you what, exactly what we thought would happen 3 or 4 hours ago is happening, Jerry and Kristen. And this map, this is Ohio right now. It's about a 50-50 race, 50 for Obama, 48 for Mitt Romney. You can see the map. This is tonight. Green counties are still coming in. Blue for Barack Obama, red for Mitt Romney. Very similar to 2008. This is the map from 2008, Obama versus McCain. So it's basically parallel. Romney's doing exactly what he needs to do as the Republican challenger here, but we've got a couple stories of the hour. First, up here in Cuyahoga County, 70% of the vote for Barack Obama, for the president. He needs to sweep this area, still about half the vote still yet to come in.
It continues to be a horse race in some regards. Jack Torrey here from the Washington Bureau Chief of the Columbus Dispatch. What are you seeing tonight so far?
Well, I'm seeing the Republicans missing an opportunity. They walked into this year thinking they could take control of the U.S. Senate. And because of very poor candidates, particularly in places like Connecticut, Indiana, and Missouri, that just isn't going to happen. You could also add Ohio into that. I think Josh Mandel was not quite ready for prime time. By contrast, Sherrod Brown ran a superb campaign. Never made a single mistake throughout the entire campaign.
At the presidential level, if Mitt Romney loses Ohio, what does that say about his campaign or the party or both?
Well, it says that his campaign just was never able to come to grips with the auto bailout. I mean, he wrote this op-ed in the New York Times in December of 2008 with the headline, "Let Detroit Go Bankrupt." He didn't write the headline, but that became the great slogan.
Folks milling about, having a drink and talking to each other about the excitement of the day. Obviously very, very happy the way things have turned out, not just with the re-election of President Obama, but the re-election of Senator Sherrod Brown, very important. A lot of folks, viewing that vote in favor of re-election for Senator Brown earlier tonight as a harbinger of good things to come for President Obama tonight as well. So Democrats very pleased with the races that they won tonight. And I'm very pleased to welcome back with me as I grab a microphone the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Thank you for joining us again, Reverend. Well, when we talked before, the election hadn't been called, and now it has, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are as the president gets reelected.
Well, there's a certain mandate. It's a mandate for a
a multicultural America.
Here comes the president and his family. Let's go to Chicago.
Malia, Sasha, Michelle, and the president.